Welcome to MegaBucks Radio. Conversations with successful entrepreneurs, sharing their tips and strategies for success. Real-world ideas that can put MegaBucks in your bank account. Here's your host, Nina Hershberger.
Hello there, and welcome to today's show. I'm your host, Nina Hershberger, and today my guest is Brian Hahn. Brian is the founder and CEO of Go Social Experts. He's an expert of using profitability on Facebook and online marketing. And during this time with the coronavirus, he's a perfect one to have on my radio show here. Brian, welcome to the show. Now, as we talked before we started, you were actually in the grocery store business for 14 years, not in it anymore, but you and your sister own 5 Dairy Queens. So you are a real small business. You get the small business mindset.
Correct. I grew up in that world. Actually, I'm a third generation business owner. So, yeah.
And so is there hope right now going through this whole process?
There's always hope. It's just challenging we're not going to be able to do things the same as we've always done in the past as business owners, period. And but there's definitely hope. There's some people that are so busy right now they can't keep up, and there are other people that are closed down totally. And I've got in my marketing business, I've got clients at both ends of that.
Interesting. Well, let's start out. I want to hear the stories from those who are so busy. So let's talk about a few stories.
Sure. The ones that are so busy.
Yes.
It depends on the industries. I do some work. Like I said, I owned a grocery store. I do some work, some marketing work for some grocery stores. And their biggest problem is, again, getting stock to actually have their shelves full. They've got inventory, but it may not be, as people have talked about, the toilet paper shortage because everybody in the world decided they wanted to stock up on that. But other items have become huge demand items, which weren't before. Flour and sugar. There's not been a run on flour and sugar in the last 50 years. Now, all of a sudden, people are baking their home to do that. So their biggest problem is getting the inventory because of the huge surge in business. I work in the supplement industry a little bit, and our clients there, we can't advertise as aggressively as we would like because we don't have inventory. Our sales have doubled, and that's all the inventory we can get right now. So it's because of where things are in the world, what people are looking for. Those have really, their sales have been fantastic as far as they're concerned.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have never predicted that. I mean, even think about it, just even a couple months ago, never would have we been thinking about that kind of thing. So I'm sure the manufacturers of those supplements or the manufacturers of that flour and sugar are probably working, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, trying to just make stuff.
Yes, they are. And, and all this stuff takes a little bit of time to ramp up. I mean, to have these huge surges in just a real short time period, it just takes a little bit to equalize everything out. So they're working as hard as they can in the stores themselves. I mean, the people, I was talking to some of them last week, and they're just getting tired. They're used to this being the time to barely just getting started again and getting busy, and all of a sudden their sales are, doubling, tripling, 4 times from last year, and you can't get people trained that fast. Right.
So if you were a grocery store worker in the past and you hadn't been recently, you'd probably be hired in a second.
I would be hired in a second. Yes, I have the skills to do that. What they need.
So let's talk. So this is all about giving tips, giving ideas, giving hope for small business owners. So tell me, I know you've got some. So let's get started with some of those.
Sure. The first thing is first of all, don't panic. It is going to work out. Now, what it's going to look like when it's all done, I'm not sure, but we will all get through this. There's been other other instances where things have looked hopeless before, and we're here now. So how we move through it, but don't panic. Look at what you can do. And what I've also recommended, the very first thing I look at is analyzing where you're at. In our Dairy Queen business, we own our real estate, which means we pay the bank rent basically. And when they shut our, half our business has gone away, we reached out to our bank, and it was amazing how easily and receptive they were to changing payment terms for it. So to the point they gave us better than what I expected with a phone call. A phone call a couple of days later, we had the paperwork and it was done for a temporary time. So, I mean, so look at where you're at with cash, but reach out to people that you never thought about. Reach out to your bank, reach out to vendors who, again, our wholesalers from the restaurant business would never consider anything. Our business, dropped in half, but we had all this stuff that we bought the week before expecting we needed it. And we reached out to the vendor and they changed the payment terms. It was just with a phone call because they realized that, we were in the same situation everybody else was. So what can you do there, first of all, to stabilize and find out where you're at? That's not even including all the government programs that have passed.
Yeah, that's interesting. My mother called me just about an hour ago. She owns 3 rental properties, and she's literally, because she owns the properties, she's literally going to take their rent to zero for the next few months.
Yep. Yep.
And so you could be in a lease situation where you do have an owner that doesn't, own any, owe anything on that property. Right. So it's worth asking, isn't it?
Yep, it's definitely worth asking. And they may be able to reduce it. I mean, they're going to have property taxes, but they could still reduce it to that level. And by the way, when I was talking to the bank about the business loans, they also told me that from that particular bank, they're basically with a phone call deferring your house payments for 6 months. So if you're in a situation on that, and they're not penalizing you for this, it's not going to show up on your credit report. It's just, so there's lots of options out there, and that doesn't even include the stuff, which I haven't really dug into, that passed late last week. There's many, many more options to help you get through this. So
yeah, I'm even wondering about state taxes, property taxes and stuff. Will there be any kind of relief? So your advice even is to call your banker. What about, I know that the government passed a lot of who should they call to find out about some of that, stimulus money or opportunity money?
Correct. I started with my banker, and then I would go to the website for the, I'm drawing a blank right now, Nina, about the
SBA?
The SBA. I would check the Small Business Administration. There might be some more. Some of the loans, I have some friends that were applying for some of those, and they said it was very easy to do. Less than an hour, everything set up online. And right now, they're accepting where they would not have been before. So I would definitely look at that.
I also understand with even payroll. And while it may say it's a loan, I'm even understanding with payroll, it potentially could be even forgiven in the future.
Yep. And we've looked at that, and I don't know enough about it to tell you that, but I would definitely investigate it. And actually, it's payroll and fixed expenses. So if your landlord doesn't, forgive your rent, it includes rent. It can include utility bills. In my case with my restaurants, if they closed us down, I still got utility bills to pay. I can't shut my coolers and freezers off or I lose all the product in them, especially the frozen stuff, which will be good when we opened up. If it was 3 weeks later or 4 weeks later, the frozen stuff is still fine. So I've got to pay the utility bills. So, but it's to help with all of that kind of thing also. So they're definitely worth investigating.
Okay,
so that
great.
And then from there, you need to start seeing what you can do and how you can do it differently from there. And the reason I'm struggling here is there's 2 different ways. First of all, you got to figure out what you can offer. Like I said, I haven't said that here. I'm a runner, and there's a small running store in my town that I frequent to buy all those supplies for running shoes and just to find out what's happening in the running world. And they're not considered an essential business in our state, so they're closed. However, you can still call them and they will deliver the products to your house. 2 days a week, they're doing deliveries. So they found ways to stay open. There's a restaurant in our restaurants that don't have the drive-through option can still do delivery. There's a restaurant in our town that is, with every delivery order that you place, they're giving you a $10 gift certificate for when their dining room opens up again. So
now, here's another idea for a dentist that I had. So we moved to the area that we're at about 2 years ago. And, of course, when you do that, you got to get all new doctors and dentists and all of that. So I went for my first appointment for a dentist. And, of course, I go every 6 months. I have since I've been a kid, but all of a sudden now I go to this dentist. Well, you need this, and this done, and it comes up to this bill. And I did not do it. But I'm thinking during this time, what if I reached out to that dentist who is now closed, except for I'm sure with some emergencies, and said, look, I will pay you right now and maybe offer half or something. I'll give you half of that right now for future doing it.
Right.
Would be worth it, wouldn't it? What if that dentist reached out to me and said, look, I know during this time, things we're closed and everything, but here's our offer. So that's what you're saying. Can you come up with a more creative offer?
Correct. Can you come up with a more creative offer to get people to pay you now to give you cash, but then to ensure you have business going on in the future? Another dentist, I do a little bit of work with some dentists. One of the dentists that I work with, he's wanting to stay open. He can stay open for emergency cases. We've expanded his marketing area. We've doubled it from what it was before because people will drive further. Other dentists are closed, and he's talking about his emergency services he can do for them. So
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And
I hope so. I'll let you know in a week or so how it's working.
So are you using Facebook to let people know? Because obviously if he's expanded his area, he doesn't have on his list that person who's 10 miles away.
Correct. And we're using Facebook in his case, yes. Facebook and Instagram we're using for his.
Okay.
Again, we have to look at what we've got for online marketing, because once you've created these offers, and by the way, if you have a gym, there's offers for gym. There's people that are friends of mine that are doing virtual training. They have one-on-one training clients. They're actually doing it online through FaceTime or a Zoom or Hangout, one of those options, but they're actually doing one-on-one training. So the person's doing is working out at their house, and they're letting those people check out equipment that they may need. So if they need dumbbells of a certain weight, they're letting them check that out so they have it without having to buy it if they didn't have it accessible now. So there's ways for gyms to make that work. I've got a resort that's a client, and what they're using is they were a fun center, a water park, and hotel, and they're sending out to their email list basically how you can have fun at home with your kids now. Again, centering their messaging around fun and keep staying connected with people so that when this all ends, they're thinking about coming back to them. So that's a great idea too, because I had one of the guys that I had interviewed talked about that kind of thing. He's a carpet cleaner. And so he's sending out to his list, not about cleaning the carpet, he's sending out fun ideas to do with your kids. It's a great idea. Yeah. And then in the resort case, what we're going to look at doing there is after a few weeks of this is they will look at offering a special. So you can buy gift cards or a voucher where you can buy your whole package for X amount of money to be redeemed in the future when we're open. So gift cards is another, gift cards can be almost any, the dentist could do gift cards. Anybody can do gift cards. And the beauty about gift cards is what in the marketing world, what we call it is breakage. So even though I buy a $100 gift card, I might forget I got it. I might not use it. And so literally you get more money because of gift cards. Correct. And a lot of times people already have them set up, or you've got them. It's easy to set up. When in this case, you can send it out with a paper coupon that you've made up with a code on it. But there's ways to get that message, to get that out there. Also, go ahead.
It goes back to the list. See, that's the hardest one for me my stomach turns when I know there's small business owners who never developed a list.
Correct.
And so now they're just, at the mercy of somebody like you who helps them with Facebook ads or something, or Instagram ads, but at least if they had the list. So if there's nothing else that comes out of this and they get through this, they must develop their list, an email list. Hard address list is perfect too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, hard addresses. And if you've got it, phone numbers. Right now, look at what you've got. And yet, but I'll go back to you with local retailers when they have a business that people come into. And I was guilty of this for years, by the way, in the grocery business. It wasn't until later in my ownership that I actually started creating a list of my own. But not creating a list is the biggest thing that local retailers especially, but other retailers that are much bigger don't create a list either. And that's what's hurting them right now. Just saying. So, but if you've got a phone list right now, call people on the phone. Get their email while you're on the phone with them, and you can start from there. But then what you're down to is, do you have a social media presence? If you've created one already, you're in better shape. If you haven't created one, then it's time to start right now, but it's going to cost you a little bit of money. I mean, you can do the setup work, you can do the, and put the content out, which you're going to have to practice and learn, but do it. Don't, because you've never done it, don't sit here and say, well, I can't do it. Now's the time to learn. What else are you going to do? So do that. And then, by costing a little bit of money, it's going to take a little bit of money in Facebook ads to actually get your message out to your people.
So let's give a possible example. Let's talk about an auto repair guy.
Yep.
So he certainly has been fixing the cars and the trucks and but he hasn't been on Facebook. Now, what should he be doing? What kind of things should an auto repair guy be doing?
Sure. I would start talking about tips and information about maintaining your car, and by the way, and it depends on where you're at. The auto repair guys may actually be open, but people aren't using their cars, so they're not needing them as much. But so you create your page. And then, I'm not sure, are you assuming they have one already, or do they need one?
Okay, that's a good question, though. Are you talking a business page, or are you talking their personal one? So let's say it's Jim Smith.
Sure.
Would Jim do it on his own personal timeline, or would it have to be a Smith's Auto Repair on a page?
Right. I would create a business page, Smith's Auto Repair, and I would create the post and information on that and share it to my Jim Smith personal page when I create it, is what I would do. On your personal page, you can't use any paid media at all. I mean, you can't pay anything, so you only would have your organic reach. So it depends on how active you had been and how many people were connected to you on Facebook. Same thing as building your email list.
Okay, that makes sense. Are you a fan of boosting or just ads, or both?
I'm a fan of actually both, and that's changed over the years. When you boost, you can actually select your audience, and as long as you have the audience you want to talk to created or selected, boost the post. It's faster, easier, and will still get you decent results. So what I would do if I was, and when you're a local business, many times it is the people in the area. So, it depends on the size area you're in. Obviously, if you're in a major metropolitan area, you might have to do a little bit more than that. But if you're in a town even of a few 100,000 or a city, you say, I'm going to do 5 miles around my business or 10 miles around my business or 20. I mean, it depends on how far out you are. Then you can or want to go, and you just pick everybody. You're going to get a little bit of overlap and that you really might not want, people a little younger than what you want and that, but it's going to cost you so little, it's not worth the time to try and get them out of there. Just put them in there. Boosting a post, you're looking at $20, do it over 5 days. So not $20 a day, $20 total for 5 days. So that will get your message out quite a ways to tens of thousands of people. How's that?
Well, and we'll go back to your dentist who's now doing the emergency. Mm-hmm. How about a chiropractor? Somebody had serious pain. They need somebody, and their chiropractor had to close, except for emergencies. I mean, this is prime, and now you're going to actually be grabbing potential clients from somebody else who didn't do that, like my dentist. My dentist, it's a big operation. Mm-hmm. You would think I would have gotten something from them. Nothing. Yep. I haven't got anything.
Right.
So now it's a real opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So you can pick up new long-term patients along with it, because they're going to remember you. And it happens. A week ago I was running, and I'm in a part of the world that was still cold. There was ice. I slipped and fell. The next morning I'm like, okay, I do need to go to the chiropractor now. And my chiropractor was available I was fortunate that way, but so she got to keep me instead of having me look for someone else. But I didn't know the day before I needed a chiropractor.
So let's talk about that. Yeah, so interesting. So let's say yours had been closed.
Mm-hmm.
What is your next, what you do is then you're going to go to Google probably, and you're going to Google chiropractors is open or something.
Yep.
Chiropractor
I will.
Yep.
On Google, if you have not already done it, I would definitely look into the Google My Business to make sure that you've got it claimed and you have accurate information on it. Currently, they're a little bit slow on updating it. Google is overwhelmed, I guess, is how I'm looking at it. But so they're not doing it as fast. But Google created creates for businesses a free mini website type of thing. It's called Google My Business. It's the current terminology for it. It's been several things over the years, but that's going to come up first in search. If I go search chiropractors near me or chiropractors Eau Claire, Wisconsin, I'm going to get their Google My Business pages are going to come up first. So you definitely want to make sure that you've got yours and the information is accurate on it.
But if it takes a little bit of time, so like you fell yesterday, so is there any other way that chiropractor that would have been open for emergencies like this you could have found them? Is there any other way?
That they would have had their website. They would have had their website up and going. Google My Business. You can actually. I'm talking about taking a little bit of time. Before it would take a day. Now it might take 3 or 4 days to get it. That's what I've been hearing. So it's not to get started with that. But for me falling, I don't know how if they did not already have a web presence, I don't know how else they would have come up.
Okay, so then the message out of this is you must have a web presence going forward. You have to have a list. You have to have a web presence. You need to be social media savvy. Make sure you have a page. The beauty about Facebook, too, like you said, with boosting and ads, I mean, it's so reasonable. Even if you reach out to, Facebook groups. So in my area, there's, I bet you that you probably have, do you have local groups, Facebook groups for runners?
There's local Facebook group for runners, so I could ask in there. There's also Facebook groups for, like in our area, there's an advice site for when you need a business in our area. So it's kind of like a neighborhood when you could ask the neighbors. Well, you go to the Facebook group and you say, hey, I need a chiropractor, and they would give you lists in there. So the key is being active. You could be active in those groups. Again, you have to start now to start seeing results, 2 or 3 or 4 days in there, but you could be active in those groups as yourself. Your personal page there, not your page in there.
So you're talking about, like, let's say the chiropractor. The chiropractor could have gone into those groups and said, look, I know that first of all, we've sanitized everything. We've done all of this kind of stuff. We make sure that we only have one patient coming in at a time, but we're here for you if you need us. Is that?
Yes. They definitely could. They definitely could be doing that into all of the groups in their area. So the running groups in the area. In my case, I would be looking at the running groups in the area, the advice groups in the area, and being in there. Also, when someone asks that question, you could be the one to answer that question.
And it's interesting. The doc, whether it's a male or female, may not have been so active in this, but I bet you their office person was probably pretty savvy in all of this. And so maybe that person is not working as much, and it would be a way to keep them engaged as well, or keep them working. Yep. That
would give you a possibility there also.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
All right. You got any more tips for us?
Those are the biggest tips that I have is analyze your situation, create offers that you can use, that you can sell now for in the future, and then reach out. And just because you haven't started, and both Nina and I mentioned the fact that, you need to have this list. If you don't have it, get started creating it now. Find out what you need to do and get started.
And I'm going to give you some, I'll give the people listening to this some advice. Years ago, it's probably been, 5 or 6 years ago, I had walked into, I love vintage, repurposed, decorating, cottage kind of style of decorating in a home. And there was this store that had opened, maybe about a year before I walked in it. I found out about them on Facebook. And I walked in. They were opened in a 100-year-old factory building. Used to be a dress factory. The ceilings are like 14 feet high, beautiful wood floors. I mean, it was like, oh yeah, this is really cool. Well, they were the best kept secret in the community at that point. And that was one of the first things I said to them. I said, look, you don't know me, but I'm really good at marketing. And, I'm just telling you, I know I found you on Facebook. I know you're doing a little bit about that, but you need to have a list. And so they did. They listened. And I put them into MailChimp. And at that time, because they had they only had 300 people on Facebook. Now they've got about 15,000. But I said, you got to do a list. And so because they listened and they created the list, now there are over 2,000 on the list. So they have to pay MailChimp. But now they can communicate with their people. But if I were doing it now, a business, either check MailChimp or ActiveCampaign. Those are my personal two favorites at this moment.
Yep.
That could change. I don't know if you had any thoughts about that, Brian, or...
I do. If you're just getting started, MailChimp would be much simpler to use for you, just because it is. And it's a solid platform. We have clients that come to us that are using it. We get people started there. And by the way, once you have those 2,000 names, the monthly fee is so insignificant from the volume and the sales you can generate, you don't mind. Even today, the email generates a significant number of sales or amount of sales for my clients and all across the world. It's just a very good platform. So that those 2,000 emails will generate that's costing you. Last time I looked, the MailChimp plan was $20 a month when you had 2,000 emails. So
yeah, I think you're right. I think $20, $30, something right around there. Yes.
So it's only one sale and you've got it paid for the month. A lot of times one sale pays for a year or two, and you should get that. If you're doing it well, you should see that kind of return coming weekly or more. Email marketing is good.
So do you have another email system that you prefer as well? I mean, I said ActiveCampaign. You did.
ActiveCampaign's a great one. It's just more sophisticated than what most local businesses like or need.
Yes.
Need.
Yes.
It's the only thing.
We should also talk about Zoom. So Zoom.com is just blowing it because for $15, the pro version is $15 a month right now.
Yep.
And you can now, just like you talked about your personal trainers, the gym.
Yep.
I mean, so Zoom, as long as somebody's got a camera on either their phone, they can do Zoom on their phone, or they've got a camera on their laptop, or they got a camera on their desktop. You can see people. Yep. And you use just the microphone that's through the computer and stuff. So that's another good option.
Yep. And there's a free one out there. Zoom is great, by the way. I use Zoom quite a bit. The other one is Google Hangouts. People don't realize it, but as like part of your Google Calendar, if I created an appointment right now, I could actually include a conferencing link, which would be a Hangout link. The person that receives it just has to click on it. You click on it, and you're in a Google Hangout, which is basically a video call.
And so you've got Zoom. I've used Google Hangouts in the past, but it was kind of buggy. Has it gotten better?
It has gotten better. I've got several clients that use it, so I'm familiar with it. I use it pretty regularly, and the quality of it has improved dramatically over the last year.
Well, that's a great tip. And we're doing this podcast on freeconferencecalling.com. I've used it for years and years and years.
Yep.
I don't pay anything.
Yep.
I do it because I can record it, and when it's done, I download it, and then I can create the podcast out of it. And I'm just on a cell phone. I'm sure, Brian, you're probably just on a cell phone as well.
Actually, I'm actually talking through my computer, a soft link. Well, but yes, I'm on a different connection. But you can call into free conference calling, and I've used that for years also, and it's a great service. And again, the price is really good, like free.
Free, and you can have lots of people.
Yep.
Sometimes I personally prefer audio versus video because, if you got somebody's video and maybe their collar's sticking up or their hair or something's that, whereas audio, there is nothing. It just, you're listening. So in many cases, I prefer audio.
Yep, and audio's great.
Any other software tips? What about managing social media? Hootsuite, Edgar, is there anything you prefer in that realm? And then tell what all of that means.
Sure. If you're just doing one or possibly two platforms, and you want, especially if you want to get any kind of organic reach, and by the way, organic is unpaid. You don't want to pay to boost an ad or anything. Facebook and Instagram don't like, and Facebook owns Instagram, so there's some similarities there, but Facebook doesn't like you to use scheduling software. So to get the absolute best reach, you can use Facebook has a scheduling option when you're creating posts. And if you're just creating posts for one page, it's no big deal. Just go and put it right on the page. Now, if you have like 5 social media platforms and you want to use posts similarly across all of them, Hootsuite is a great option. Buffer app is one that I've used that I've liked in the past. And then MegaBucks, which you mentioned is a little more sophisticated, is a great program if you're doing long-term content marketing on social media. But most small businesses aren't going to need the sophistication of a MegaBucks.
So what that means, well, unless they're switching some of their business, and now if you're a chiropractor and now you're going to actually add another stream of income and you're going to coach chiropractors. Yep.
Then you would need it.
And then you would need it. So it's just know that it's out there. Is it really bad to use them? I mean, does it simply just really take all of the engagement down? Is it bad?
It does reduce it significantly. We did some tests on it, and it was more than I expected it to be. So if you've got a large audience and you need to put content out, and content isn't your main way of, so if you're going to use mostly paid sales or paid promotions, what I mean by paid is paid ads, you can use the scheduling programs with no problem. If you're not going to do that and you're only doing 1 or 2 profiles, you're better off to manually do it with the scheduler, with the built-in Facebook scheduler.
Okay.
It doesn't save you much time to use a Hootsuite or Buffer app. Doesn't save you much time if you're just doing 1 page or 2 pages. It'd save you a little bit of time. But if you're doing 5 or 6 or 10, it's a big deal. Then go ahead and do that.
So I want to also talk about some tools to use to create some graphical posts.
Yeah.
Canva is one that I know, and it's, you can get it on your phone. I don't know if you can. Do you get it on a desktop or a?
Yep, you can get it on your desktop, you can get it on your phone and a tablet. And Canva is fantastic for doing graphics.
So, I mean, they got a lot of pre-done things. They know what the sizes should be if you're going to go to Instagram or if you're going to, because everything is a little bit different.
And it changes.
Yeah, and it changes. I actually have one on my phone. I can't even remember. I'm not going to pull my ear away to see what it is, but I've got one. So, like, I see something I like, I snap a picture of it with my phone, and then I go into this app and I crop it so that it takes out stuff I don't want, and then I use that to post. I don't know if you have any tips on doing something like that.
I don't have I have one of my team members that do video or to do the work with graphics. That's not my strength. So I have ones I've recommended in the past, but I don't know which ones are the most current ones for the graphic work. I do know we use Canva quite a bit, and I use Canva when I need to do something quickly. I use that one myself, but after that, I'm not sure what the best ones out there. And there are several, though. There are several really good ones.
And depending on your business, now this wouldn't be for everybody, but you could also hire a virtual assistant to help. Mm-hmm. You said you had staff that did stuff, but let's say you don't want, the thing about a virtual assistant, you pay for a project as opposed to ongoing money.
Correct. And if you have a person to do that is great to have. The other thing, if you just need a small project done, Fiverr can still get you some good results. The website, fiverr.com. And most of the projects on there start around $5. You might have to upgrade and spend $10 or $15, but you can get some good work back from there.
Yeah, and they're from people all over the world.
Yep.
And the beauty about using a virtual assistant like somebody on Fiverr, and I want to say that again, it's FIVERR, 2 R's.com, is that you don't have to pay them any kind of benefit. They don't take vacation. It's a project-based kind of thing, which is really good. So then you don't have any long-term kind of financial commitment.
Yep. And I found that if I've got projects, once I find one that I really like and they've got a feel for what I want, you can use the same person for multiple projects. And that way they get a little bit of loyalty to you. They know how you work, you know how they work, and you can get to a system that's going fairly well and very inexpensively. And, when you don't have work for them, you just don't, it's a project. So you just don't put a project out. It doesn't cost you anything.
So that's an interesting. What kind of Fiverr projects have you? Anything off the top of your head that you might have done?
I tend to use them for graphics work. I've had logos designed for them, not necessarily not for my main business, but for other side things where I just need a small logo, quick and easy. I've had logos designed there. I've had flyers designed when I wanted someone that does better than what I can do, and my staff was too busy. So we've used them for that type of work. Mainly, I've done the other thing I've done is video editing. I've done a fair amount of that with them also. It's time consuming.
Perfect. Yeah, you'll be so surprised what you could do. Maybe even press releases. You got writers. You got anything you can imagine.
Yep.
I'll go back to that little vintage shop that I talked about, that I met, 6 years ago or something. So for one time for a Facebook post, I wanted a video created. She carries a particular brand of paint. It's called Chalk Paint by Annie Sloan. Annie is out of the UK, but it's all over here in the United States as well, and all over the world, actually. And so what I did on Fiverr is I hired a guy from Ireland, and I wrote a script, and for $30, he was live on, in front of this boat. And it was just a fun thing that we posted on Facebook. So, again, it's your imagination is the only thing that's going to limit you with a Fiverr kind of person.
Yep, and it's so affordable.
And it's very affordable, yes. And we once we had that $30 video, we redid it every so often, maybe every 6 months, every year or something. We post it again, and then we boost it, and it was just a lot of fun because you have a lot more people that are on there by that time.
Yes.
Well, Brian, I am looking at the clock, and I know we're coming to an end. Is there anything else you thought about as we went through this? Any kind of other tips or anything?
That was about the end of where I was at with it.
Good. If somebody wants to know how to get a hold of you, maybe they're really interested in hiring you to help with them Facebook or online marketing, do you have a way they could get a hold of you?
Sure. The easiest way would be to go to my website. It's GoSocialExperts.com, and there's a contact us form on there. The other thing I would give you, and this right here is going to take you just a little bit longer, but I've got a book that came out last fall, which is the Facebook Formula, which goes into how to use Facebook. I've got a free e-copy of it there, and if you want a printed copy, it's a couple bucks for shipping on there. But if you go to my website again, GoSocialExperts.com/book, you will get the chance to download the free book, or like I said, you can order a printed copy for a couple bucks.
Yeah, that's very kind of you, and thank you so much. So, Brian, thank you for taking your time. Thank you for giving to these small business owners who, rightfully so, are nervous or scared. There is hope.
Yep, there is hope, and I understand where you're at.
Yeah. We're all going to get through this together. It's not going to be the same, but we are going to get through this together. And so thank you so much for coming. So until next time, this is Nina Hershberger. Remember, Facebook and online marketing might be some of your best friends.
Thank you for listening to MegaBucks Radio with Nina Hershberger. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or to listen to past episodes, visit megabucksradio.com.